When people ask me about my childhood, I usually give them the short version. But today, I want to tell the whole story, every painful detail of it. My name is Rita, and this is the story of how I discovered the truth about my mother, a truth that would change our family forever. I grew up in a beautiful two-story house with my younger sister Ashley, who's 5 years younger than me, my successful businessman father, and my mother, who was, well, that's where the story gets complicated. During my early years, my mother was always at home, technically a housewife, but not in the way most people picture it. While other kids' moms were baking cookies and attending PTA meetings, mine was usually passed out on the couch by noon. "Mom, I'm hungry," I'd say, standing in the doorway of our kitchen. Ashley would be crying in her high chair, her face red and tear-stained. "Just shut up, both of you," Mom would slur, stumbling around the kitchen. "Can't you see I'm busy?" Busy meant drinking. It always meant drinking. Dad tried to hide it from us at first. He'd come home from work, take one look at the situation, and quickly order takeout. He'd clean up whatever mess Mom had made, put us to bed, and then I'd hear them arguing through the walls. The fights got worse over time. Dad suspected she was cheating, though he could never prove it. But the drinking was enough. One day, after finding Ashley and me hadn't eaten all day again, he'd had enough. "Get out," he said to Mom, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "Pack your things and get out. I'm taking custody of the girls." Mom didn't even fight it. She just packed a bag and left, like we meant nothing to her. Like her 8 years of being my mother and 3 years of being Ashley's could be erased as easily as wiping a chalkboard clean. Ashley was too young to really understand what was happening, but I wasn't. I watched from my bedroom window as Mom walked down our driveway for what I thought would be the last time. She never looked back, never waved goodbye. She just got into her car and drove away. Dad hired a housekeeper to help with the cleaning and cooking, but he made sure he was there for all the important moments. He came to my school plays, helped with homework, and never missed a parent-teacher conference. He made sure Ashley grew up knowing she was loved, even if our mother wasn't around to show it. For 6 years, we heard nothing from Mom. No birthday cards, no Christmas calls, not even a message passed through mutual friends. It was like she had vanished into thin air, and honestly, we learned to be okay with that. Dad created a new normal for us, and we were doing fine. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon when our lives changed again. I was 14, doing homework at the kitchen table, when I heard the doorbell ring. Dad went to answer it, and then I heard something I never expected, my mother's voice. "John, please, can I come in? I need to talk to you." I froze, my pencil hovering above my math homework. Ashley, who was 9 now, looked up from her tablet with confusion. She barely remembered Mom's voice. Dad let her in. She looked different than I remembered, better, healthier. Her hands weren't shaking, and her eyes were clear. She sat at our kitchen table, the same one where she used to pass out, but now she sat up straight, her hands folded neatly in front of her. "I've changed," she said, looking directly at Dad. "I've been through 3 different treatment programs for alcoholism. I've been seeing a psychologist for the past year. I'm clean, John. I'm really clean this time." Dad stood there, arms crossed, but I could see the way he was looking at her. After all these years, he still loved her. I could tell by the way his stance softened, how his eyes never left her face. "I want to come home," Mom said, her voice breaking. "I want to be a family again, please." Ashley, who had been quiet this whole time, suddenly burst out, "Can she, Dad? Can Mom come home?" I watched Dad's face as he struggled with the decision. 6 years of raising us alone, 6 years of healing from Mom's betrayal, and now here she was, asking for another chance. "We'll take it slow," he finally said. Mom moved back in that weekend. Ashley was over the moon, she finally had the mother she'd barely known. She didn't remember the bad times, the screaming, the empty kitchen, the broken promises. But I remembered everything. At first, I watched Mom like a hawk, waiting for the mask to slip. And sometimes, I thought I saw glimpses of something. The way she'd look at me when Dad wasn't around, cold, distant, like I was a stranger in her house. But then Dad would walk in, and suddenly she'd be all hugs and kisses, calling me a sweetheart and asking about my day. But later, when Dad was at work, she'd barely acknowledge my existence. She'd walk past me in the hallway without a word, or cut me off mid-sentence to go do something else. It was subtle, so subtle that sometimes I wondered if I was imagining it. "You're being paranoid," I told myself. "She's changed. You're just looking for problems because you can't let go of the past." After a few months, Dad and Mom got remarried in a small ceremony in our backyard. Ashley was the flower girl, beaming with joy. I was a bridesmaid, pushing down my doubts and trying to smile for the photos. I decided to focus on the positive. Our family was whole again. Dad was happier than I'd seen him in years. Ashley finally had the mother she'd always wanted. And Mom, well, maybe I was just being too hard on her. Maybe I was the one who needed to change, to let go of old hurts and give her a real chance. So I chose to believe in this new version of our family. I chose to ignore the cold looks, the subtle dismissals, the way she seemed to freeze up whenever I entered a room. After all, families aren't perfect, right? The important thing was that we were together again, all of us under one roof, trying to make it work. By the time I graduated high school, our family had fallen into a comfortable routine. Mom and Dad seemed happy, Ashley was thriving, and I had gotten used to ignoring the little voice in my head that said something wasn't quite right. I chose a college 3 hours away from home, close enough to visit on weekends if I wanted to, but far enough to have my own life. My roommate Sarah always said I was lucky to have such a normal family. "Your mom calls you every week," she'd say, "and your dad actually remembers to send care packages. That's, like, sitcom level perfect." If only she knew. I came home for winter break during my sophomore year, looking forward to sleeping in my own bed and catching up with my high school friends. The first thing I noticed when I walked in was Mom sitting at the kitchen counter, staring frustrated at her computer. "Stupid thing won't turn on," she muttered, not looking up as I dropped my bags. "Hi to you too, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice light. She finally looked up. "Oh, Rita, good timing. Can I borrow your laptop? Mine's completely dead, and I need to check some important emails." I handed over my laptop without thinking twice about it. "Sure, go ahead. I'll probably be out with friends most of the break anyway." That was true. I spent most of my time catching up with my old crowd, going to movies, hanging out at our favorite diner. Mom was always on my laptop when I'd pass through the house, which seemed a bit odd for just checking emails, but I didn't think much of it. When I got back to campus after break, I opened my laptop to start working on assignments. That's when I noticed Mom hadn't logged out of her social media accounts. Actually, she hadn't logged out of any of her accounts. And there weren't just one or two, there were several. My cursor hovered over a profile with a name that made my blood run cold, Medea. I'd studied Greek mythology in my freshman year. Medea, the woman who murdered her own children to spite their father. A chill ran down my spine as I clicked on the profile. The profile picture showed a stunning blonde woman who looked nothing like my mother. The image had that too perfect quality that I recognized from AI-generated photos: flawless skin, symmetrical features, and eyes that seemed to look both at you and through you at the same time. But what really caught my attention was a group she belonged to, Inadequate Moms. It was a private group, and my mother wasn't just a member, she was one of the most active participants. My finger hovered over the mousepad. Did I really want to know what was behind this digital door? Maybe ignorance really was bliss. But I couldn't stop myself, I started reading. The group was active, with hundreds of posts daily. Women sharing their darkest thoughts about motherhood, but this wasn't the typical "mommy needs wine" humor I'd seen on regular social media. This was different, darker, rawer. I scrolled through the posts, my hands getting clammy as I recognized my mother's username appearing again and again in the comments. Then I found it, her main post, dated just 3 days ago. "I hate them. There, I said it. I hate my children. They ruined everything I ever dreamed of doing with my life. Every time I look at them, I'm reminded of all the opportunities one lost, all the dreams I had to give up. They're like parasites, sucking away at my life, my freedom, my identity. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely scroll. The comments below were even worse. "You're so brave for saying this. Society tries to force us to love our children, but it's our right not to. Don't let anyone shame you for your feelings. Not every woman is meant to be a mother." Mom's responses got more detailed, more honest, more brutal with each comment. "The only reason I stay is the money. Their father is loaded, and I've got a comfortable life. I'm just waiting for them to move out permanently. The older one's already at college, thank God, and the younger one will be gone in a few years. Then it'll just be me and their father, living the life I should have had all along." I felt sick. But I couldn't stop reading. I never wanted kids. Their father insisted, he wanted the perfect family. But I knew from the moment I got pregnant with the first one that I'd made a mistake. I gained 20 pounds with her, 20 fucking pounds. Do you know how long it took me to lose that weight? Almost 2 years of my life, gone, just like that. And then he wanted another one. The drinking wasn't because I had a problem, it was because I couldn't stand being around them sober. The timestamp showed she'd been posting while I was home for break, probably sitting right there at the kitchen counter, using my own laptop to spew this hatred. I thought about all the times she'd asked about my day during that visit, smiled at me over dinner, hugged me goodbye when I left. All an act. More comments rolled in. "You shouldn't feel guilty about any of this. These feelings are natural. At least you're honest about it. Better than pretending to be mother of the year." Mom's reply, "The worst part is pretending. Having to hug them, ask about their day, act interested in their lives. Their father eats it up, he thinks I've become this perfect mother. If he only knew how much I despised every moment of it." Then came the post that made my blood run cold. I started hating them before they were even born. Especially the older one, she was the first mistake, the one who started it all. Every time I felt her kick, I resented her more. Even now, when she comes home from college with her perfect grades and her perfect attitude, trying so hard to please everyone, it makes me sick. That was me. She was talking about me. Every kick, every movement I made before I even existed, she had hated it all. Hated me. The room started spinning. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, my whole body shaking. When I came back to my desk, the screen was still glowing with my mother's words, each one a knife twisting in my gut. I thought I'd seen the worst of it. I was wrong. My hands trembling, I kept scrolling through my mother's posts. Each new revelation felt like another punch to the gut. There was one from just after my last visit home. "She's back from college again. I can barely stand to look at her. Every time she tries to talk to me, I have to fight the urge to walk away. Thank God she's only here for breaks. I don't know how I survived when she lived here full-time." The comments section was full of sympathetic responses, other mothers sharing their own stories of resentment. But Mom wasn't done. Her next post made me feel physically ill. "The worst part is that neither of my daughters looks anything like me. They're both carbon copies of their father, and honestly, they're just plain ugly. I mean, shouldn't children at least be aesthetically pleasing to look at? These two look like they walked straight out of a horror movie." I remembered all the times she'd criticized my appearance. "That hairstyle doesn't suit you, Rita. Those clothes make you look even worse than usual. Ashley, honey, maybe you should try harder with your appearance." I'd always thought she was trying to help us look our best. Now I understood, she was just expressing her disgust. But the real bombshell came in her most recent post, dated yesterday. "Well, looks like I'm pregnant again." The comments exploded immediately. "Are you crazy? Why would you have another kid when you hate the ones you have? Girl, what are you thinking?" Mom's response made my blood freeze in my veins. "Don't worry, it's not my husband's. My lover is absolutely gorgeous, everything my husband isn't. This baby will finally give me the beautiful child I've always wanted." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. A lover. A pregnancy. A complete betrayal of not just me and Ashley, but Dad too. This wasn't just about her hating us anymore, this was so much worse. My hands moved before my brain could catch up. I started taking screenshots of everything, every post, every comment, every reply. I opened the screen recorder and captured video evidence of me navigating through her profile, showing her email address, her account details, everything that proved this was really her account. My fingers flew across the keyboard, saving everything I could find. I knew my mother, she tried to deny it all, claim it was fake, edited, photoshopped. But I was going to make sure she couldn't wriggle out of this one. I created a secure folder and backed everything up to my cloud storage. Then I did it again on an external drive. And again in my email. Triple redundancy, no chance of losing this evidence. After gathering all the evidence, I sat in my dorm room for hours, trying to decide what to do. Ashley's face kept appearing in my mind, my little sister, only 14, who thought our mother had finally become the parent she'd always wanted. I couldn't do that to her. I couldn't be the one to shatter her world. This needs to be handled quietly, I told myself. Like lancing a wound, quick and clean. I picked up my phone and stared at it for a long moment before dialing Mom's number. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. She answered on the third ring. "What is it?" "I'm busy." I took a deep breath. "Mom, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I know everything." "What are you talking about?" Her voice had that familiar edge to it, the one she used when Dad wasn't around. "I found your media account. I've read everything you posted in that mother's group. Everything about how you feel about me and Ashley. About your lover. About the baby." There was silence on the other end. "Then, you had no right." "Stop," I cut her off. "Just stop. I'm not calling to argue. I'm calling to give you a chance to leave quietly." "Excuse me?" "Pack your things and leave. Just like you did before. No drama, no explanations needed. Just go. If you do that, I won't tell Dad about your posts or your lover or that the baby isn't his." Mom's voice turned to ice. "You're blackmailing me? I'm giving you an opportunity to walk away without destroying Ashley's life. She's only 14, Mom. She doesn't deserve to know how you really feel about her. You have no idea what you're talking about." The line went dead. My hands were shaking as I tried to pull up her media account again, but it was already gone. Deleted. Everything erased, except for the evidence I'd carefully saved. "Smart move, Rita," I whispered to myself. "At least you were prepared for this." 3 hours later, my phone rang. It was Dad. "Rita." His voice was tight with anger. I'd never heard him sound like that before. "You need to come home. Right now." "Dad, I have classes." "I don't care about your classes. Get in your car and drive home. Now." The line went dead for the second time that day. I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone. Then I started packing a bag, my mind racing. What had Mom told him? What version of the story had she spun? 20 minutes later, I was in my car, driving home in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon, watching my carefully laid plans crumble around me. So much for handling things quietly. The 3-hour drive home felt like it took days. When I finally pulled into our driveway, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn off the engine. I hadn't even made it to the front door when Dad threw it open, his face red with anger. "Get in here. Now." I'd never seen him like this, not even during the worst days of Mom's drinking. The living room felt like a courtroom, with Mom sitting on the couch, tissues clutched in her hands, and Ashley hovering uncertainly in the corner. "How dare you?" Dad's voice boomed through the room. "Your own mother? Blackmail? What the hell is wrong with you?" I opened my mouth to speak, but he cut me off. "No, you listen to me. Your mother told me everything. How you threatened to spread rumors about her past drinking. How you're trying to extort money from her to keep quiet. She's pregnant, Rita. She's carrying your future brother or sister, and you're causing her this stress? Mom let out a theatrical sob, but I caught the slight upturn of her lips behind the tissue. She was enjoying this. Your mother has been crying all day because of you, Dad continued, pacing the room. After everything she's done to change, to become a better person, to be there for this family, this is how you repay her? Dad, that's not. I don't want to hear your excuses. The drinking was years ago. She got help. She came back. She's trying to give us another chance at being a real family, and you're trying to destroy that? For what? Money? Mom's shoulders shook with more sobs, but her eyes were cold and triumphant when they met mine. I want you out of this house, Dad said, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. Now. I can't even look at you right now. I looked at Ashley, who was pressed against the wall, tears streaming down her face. Then at Mom, who was somehow managing to both cry and smile at the same time. This was it, the moment of truth. Okay, Dad. I'll leave, I said quietly. But first, I want to show you something. I pulled out my laptop, my hand steady now. Mom's face changed instantly. This is Mom's secret social media account, I said, turning the screen toward Dad. Under the name Medea, you know, the mythological figure who killed her children? And these are her posts in a private group called Inadequate Moms. Dad's face went from red to white as he started reading. I had organized everything chronologically, starting with the posts about hating us from birth, moving through her complaints about our appearances, ending with her announcement about the pregnancy and her lover. That's not real, Mom sputtered. She faked those. She edited them. That's why I took videos too, I said, playing the screen recording that showed me navigating through her active account. And saved the email verifications. And archived the web pages. Would you like to see them all, Mom? Ashley had crept closer, reading over Dad's shoulder. Mom, her voice cracked. You think I'm ugly? Of course not, sweetie. Mom jumped up, reaching for her. Your sister is lying. She made all of this up. Don't worry, it's not my husband's, Dad read from the screen. My lover is absolutely gorgeous, everything my husband isn't. This baby will finally give me the beautiful child I've always wanted. The room exploded. Mom was screaming that it was all lies, that I had somehow faked everything. Ashley was sobbing, backing away from Mom's attempts to hug her. Dad just stood there, scrolling through post after post, his face getting harder with each one. I picked up my bag and walked out. There was nothing left to say. A week later, I got a text from Dad. He'd forced Mom to take a paternity test at a local clinic. They drew blood from both of them. 3 days after that, he got the results. The baby wasn't his. The divorce was quick this time. Dad didn't hesitate, he kicked Mom out and filed for divorce immediately. She tried to argue for alimony, but Dad's lawyer had a field day with the evidence I'd gathered. In the end, she walked away with nothing. That was 6 months ago. Ashley and Dad still live in our family home, and I'm back at college, trying to focus on my studies. It wasn't easy for any of us at first. Ashley took it the hardest, she'd cry herself to sleep at night, devastated by the knowledge that her own mother thought she was ugly, that she'd never really loved her at all. Gradually, the wounds began to heal. Dad threw himself into being there for Ashley even more than before, making sure he was present for every school event, every minor triumph, every rough day. And me? I started coming home most weekends, despite the 6-hour round trip. We'd have family dinners where we'd talk about everything and nothing, Ashley's latest drama at school, Dad's work stories, my college adventures. We never talk about Mom anymore. I don't know if she had the baby, if she's living with her lover, if she's happy or miserable. I don't want to know. Sometimes Ashley starts to say something about her, then stops herself, like touching a scar to make sure it's really healed. But late at night, when I'm alone in my dorm room, I sometimes wonder if I did the right thing. Would it have been better to let them live in blissful ignorance? To let Ashley keep believing in her mother's love? To let dad think his second chance at marriage had worked out? I think about the family photos we took after mom came back, all of us smiling, looking like the perfect family. It was a beautiful lie, a comfortable fiction we could have lived in indefinitely. Sometimes I miss that fiction, that warmth of believing everything was okay. But then I remember mom's words in those posts, the hatred she carried for us even while hugging us and smiling for those photos. I think about the life we would have lived under that lie, Ashley growing up never understanding why she felt like she wasn't good enough, dad investing more years into a marriage built on deception, me carrying the weight of knowing the truth alone. No, I decided. The truth hurts, but living a lie slowly poisons you from the inside. It's better to face reality, even when it's ugly, than to live in a beautiful dream that could shatter at any moment.